That was Jody Miller with her top 30 hit, Home of the Brave, right here on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. Miss Miller has had a long career of over 50 years of chart hits, live performances, and TV appearances, winning a Grammy Award in the process, and of course, the hearts and minds of countless fans everywhere. It's a great honor to welcome Miss Jody Miller to the program. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be on your show.
You know, when I was telling people that you were going to be on the program, it's the darndest thing because I kept saying, Jody Miller, that pop/country/ there are all these classifications, and I thought, well, I guess singer covers it all, right?
Well, when I was recording with Billy Sherrill, he was he was known as a country producer, and he signed me because he had heard my natural sound of Jody Miller, the LP that was done by Joe Allison,
right?
And on Capitol, and he heard me do a lot of country songs. But then, after he signed me and we started recording together, he told me, he said, "Well, you are too pop for me to do any country songs, and you're too country for the pop music of today." So he just got some songs by the girl trios, like the Chiffons and the Shirelles.
You're right.
And put dobro and the steel guitars on it. And I prefer doing that type of music. But I like to do them a little bit country.
He's So Fine, a top 5 country hit in 1971 for our guest today, Jody Miller. And we were talking about pop music and country music, and just to make things even more confusing, you were actually inspired to sing in the first place from hearing Mario Lanza.
Well, yeah, the thing of it is, I couldn't get over his voice. And I connected with his voice because I always had a pretty loud voice. I sang. I didn't need a microphone at the time. And I loved his singing. I thought he was great. And I was inspired to become a singer because of that record that I heard him do.
It was La Donna Mobile.
I'm glad you said it because I couldn't pronounce it.
Well, he had so many. It could have been Be My Love or Ah, Sweet Mystery of Life. He had a bunch.
So you liked him too? Huh?
Oh, sure. Sure. Nobody wants to hear me sing it, but tell us a little bit about your first really big chart success, Queen of the House, which was not really an answer song to King of the Road by Roger Miller, but kind of a companion piece.
Yeah, it is a companion. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Well, I had been in Europe because I got invited to the San Remo Song Festival, and I was gone a couple of months, and I didn't know what was going to happen to my career. I was recording Italian and German when I went over to do the festivals for EMI. And so I came back, and I was appointed a new producer at Capitol. His name was Steve Douglas. He was a saxophone player.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And Ken Nelson was Capitol's country producer. And he had this little girl, Mary Taylor, who was a singer. She had a few chart records, but they weren't, way up there. They were just very noticeable. That she had written a song one night, new lyrics to King of the Road, called Roger, her friend, Roger Miller, and quoted them on the phone to him. And he said, "Mary, that's a hit. Why don't you go record it?" She said, "I can't record it because I've got one on the charts now." And back then, before the Beatles, you couldn't release another single when you had one on there.
Right.
So anyway, he took it to him, her producer, Ken. He laid it on Steve's desk. I think he kind of did it as a favor to him because he knew he was a young producer, getting started. And I think he knew it was a hit. But I never did discuss that with Ken. But then he played it for me when I got back that night from Europe. And I walked right in the studio to meet him from the airport, really, because I wanted to meet him so badly. And he played it for me, and he said, "Jody, we've got to cut this right away because Roger's record is hot, and we need the steam from his fire, to do this one too." So we cut the song. I went in the studio and cut it, and 5 days later, Capitol Records plant in Santa Maria, California, had several copies pressed for us to sell. And we sold as many as we could, but the plant couldn't press them fast enough.
That's our guest today, Jody Miller, with the song that won her the 1966 Best Female Vocal Country Performance Grammy, Queen of the House, here on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. You know, I would be remiss without mentioning your many, many appearances on television, and I think a lot of listeners who are listening to this right now probably best remember you from your appearances on Shindig. Can you tell us about working on that show?
Yeah, right. I loved doing Shindig. That was so much fun. And I got to meet some great acts like the Rolling Stones and the Righteous Brothers and Darlene Love and her two friends who backed me up, the Blossoms.
The Blossoms, yeah.
Yeah, and she was great. I loved Darlene Love. She had a wonderful voice. And the director and the producer of that show, they were really fantastic people. They knew what the audience wanted, and they put together great little shows every week.
Yeah, sadly, one of those producers just passed away, Jack Good.
Jack Good, yeah.
Who came over from England to do that show.
He wanted me to sing that song, Saved. And he loved that song. And I sang it more than once on the shows. I think I did it in 2 different shows, that same song. And the Righteous Brothers said, Jody, why do you think he wants you to do that song all the time? And I said, I don't know.
Well, maybe there was a higher purpose involved. I mean, you wound up singing gospel music, too, so...
Yeah, I've been thinking that, too.
Maybe.
I'm thinking about going back and starting to do that in my act.
Yeah, well, you still could. I want to go back to some of your early tours. One in particular, I'm a big Beach Boys fan, and I know that for a time there in the mid-'60s, you opened for the Beach Boys.
Yeah, I got to go on tour with them, and Glen Campbell was my backup man. He was playing guitar on that tour.
Right.
We went to Hawaii and visited all the islands. We had a small little plane, and we'd all go together. The Rivingtons were on that date, too. It was just wonderful. I got a big break there.
You know, obviously we lost Glen Campbell not that long ago. What are your memories of working with Glen?
He was amazing. I really think, truly, that he was the world's greatest guitarist. And I do mean that because I've heard some wonderful guitarists, and I know there's some very famous guitarists, and they play wonderfully. But he could play everything and anything, any kind of instrument with strings on it he could play. And he would change the style of the guitar, make it a banjo out of it, and stuff like that. And he was just amazing, the licks that he could come up with. And then when he started singing, see, he was under contract with Capitol when he went on that date with us. Now, this was before he went on tour with Brian and filled in for Brian with the Beach Boys.
Right.
That was many years later. But he was under contract with Capitol when he went on that tour with me and the Beach Boys and the Rivingtons. And you remember the Rivingtons, I guess.
Sure, Papa Mau Mau.
Yeah, I have a funny story to tell about that. In our little plane, we were headed to one of the islands in Hawaii, and the captain came over the loudspeaker and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to have your attention." And then he started saying, "Ba ba 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 ba." It was so fun. It was so fun. But anyway, Glenn was the best.
You know, I remember seeing him on Hee Haw, maybe in the late 70s, early 80s.
Really? Was he on Hee Haw?
Yeah, he sure was. He was on there, and he was playing guitar. And what I remember was he was playing Flight of the Bumblebee, and he had the guitar behind his head. And then he had it behind his back and then under his leg and and I thought, if I could play guitar like that, I would do that all the time to impress people. But he didn't have to. You know, he just did it. He just showed people, I can do all this Jimi Hendrix stuff. I can do it too.
Yeah, I was going to say he was under contract with Capitol, but when he started recording, he was a fantastic singer.
Yeah.
I mean, his singing was great, I thought.
One of the best, most definitely. You know, I'd like to ask you about someone else you worked with, and that would be Bob Hope.
Oh, yeah. I had an agent, E.O. Stacy, who booked Bob, and he booked other people, like Red Skelton and people like that as well.
Right.
And I got to work with all these giants and be their opening act. And I loved working with Bob. We had so much fun, and he was Mr. Showbiz. He loved show business, and he gave his heart, soul, and mind all to show business.
And didn't you do a duet with him?
Oh, yeah, we did a good song from his Red, White, and Blue Broadway show. It's the Lovely.
Yeah.
And it's real funny. The bit is real funny. I have a little bitty piece of paper, and I asked Bob if he would do a song with me. And he gets all excited and spruces up and smiles at the audience and dances around a little bit. Yeah, I'd love to do a song with you, Jody. And so I said, well, here's your part. And I handed him that little piece of paper. Right. And he does this Jack Benny look, you know, that he always used to do, you know. And the crowd starts laughing. And I started into the song, the night is clear, and if you want to go dancing, dear, it's, and his part is it's. It's delightful, it's delightful, it's, and that's all he's saying. And then while I'm doing da-da-da-da, you know, the rest of the song, well, he's looking around like that, I got the Jack Benny thing, and he's looking around the audience like a little dummy, you know, that he feels like. It's just hilarious. And I was looking forward to that every performance because I had so much fun.
Well, you worked with many of the greats, that's for sure. And I understand that there's some new Jody Miller music soon to be coming our way.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I recorded a little country song. It's kind of like deja vu all over again because it's really an answer record to George Strait's All My Exes Live in Texas.
Right.
It's from your exes down in Texas. And it's a darling little song. We cut it in a studio in Texas with Tracy Pitcox. He's a country music DJ, and he has got quite a country music festival thing going down there in the heart of Texas. But I put it on his label, and it comes out after the first of the year.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with us today.
Hey, I wish I could listen to your program.
Oh, well, you know, there's a way on the internet.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
good.
And I'll make sure to pass that along. Oh, by the way, folks, Jody Miller has a website, which is jodymillermusic.com, and there's all sorts of information on there, and you can get the new music, you can hear some older stuff, and see pictures and read her story and her testimony. Once again, jodymillermusic.com, and again, thanks so much for
my
coming on.
pleasure indeed. Thank you.